This summer, after several months...
Steve, what the hell are you doing?
Nothing. Welcome to TechCentric episode 10.
Episode 10 of TechCentric. Glad to be here. Unfortunately, we haven't been around for a while, so just wanted to give you some new content. What have we got coming up today?
Coming up today, I've got the Hacking the Western Digital My TV.
Cool.
It's a really cool box. It's about $100. You can get it at most places, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. So, take a look.
Cool. Yeah, let's see it.
Alright, here we are today with the Western Digital My TV HD box. Alright, what this box is, it retails for about $130. What it allows you to do is it allows you to take some form of USB storage, be it USB hard drive, flash card, or whatever, plug it into the USB ports on the box, and output up to 1080p video via the HDMI port to your television. Alright, it's got a menu system built in. It's got a couple of real cool little features. You can do photo slideshows, you can do music, video, stuff like that. But in true tech-centric form, we knew this could be hacked. We picked up a couple of them, and we're going to hack the Western Digital My TV HD box today. Alright, here's what you're going to need to get going on hacking your own Western Digital My TV HD. Of course, your Western Digital My TV HD. A little bit about this device. It runs Linux. It's a proprietary version of Linux. It has a specialized video decoder in it that allows it to output 1080p video without actually taxing the CPU. Your CPU in this box is very low end. It's a MIPS processor, therefore it's able to run any of the software for other MIPS processors. That includes any of the NSLUG stuff, so the Linksys NSLU2, all that software that's compiled and running for that will run on this box, which is really cool. We'll get into that a little bit later. The next thing we're going to need a small flash drive, okay? We're going to need one that's under 2 gigabytes because we need it to be formatted FAT in order to flash the firmware. It's real simple. We'll show you how to do that. We have a 128 meg one here. You don't need anything bigger than that. Alright, next most important piece is the TrendNet TU2-ET100 Ethernet adapter, okay? And all this is a USB Ethernet adapter that is tested to work with the firmware that we're going to flash onto the Western Digital My TV. There's a couple of other adapters that are tested and work really well. This is the best. There's one other one, it's a Belkin gigabit adapter that is tested and works just as well as this, except it's gigabit. So that would be a good option too if you're going to want to stream 1080p video across the network. Not possible with 10100, you can stream 720 but not 1080. Alright, last but not least is a form of storage. Okay, we've got an external hard drive here. It's just USB connected, and it contains a SATA hard drive, and we're going to format this to a Linux file system and use this as the main storage for the device. This hard drive will store all of the videos, all of the movies, all your music, all of the media. So this is the drive that you're going to want to be at least, a decent amount in size. You can go as low as you want. I wouldn't recommend anything lower than a 500, just because it takes a long time to transfer this stuff, and you don't want to have to be managing the content of the hard drive. You want to be able to kind of just turn the box on, watch what you want to watch, and be done with it. Alright, other than that, all you really need is all the cables required to connect it to a television. This is just a 26-inch Westinghouse monitor that we're going to use. Later on, we're going to take it downstairs to my 52-inch Vizio, and we're going to test it on there. Alright, so let's get going. First step is going to be flashing the new firmware onto the box. Alright, when it comes to firmwares for this machine, there's two choices. You've got ext boot which allows you to basically flash the firmware in the box and instruct it to just boot off of whatever you've got hooked up. So you could boot, a completely custom Linux distro off of a USB drive or whatever. It's not great for actually maintaining the functionality of the box as it is as much as just hacking it and figuring out what you can do with the box. So the firmware that we're going to be going with today is the other firmware. It's the WDTV firmware. Alright, and what this firmware does is it replaces the firmware that's on the box stock and allows you to load application packs that are pre-compiled and pre-packaged for the box itself off of a USB drive, as opposed to running the whole operating system off of the drive. It's a very easy process. If you've ever flashed your Western Digital box before, you know all you have to do is plug in a drive with a new firmware. The Western Digital box picks it up and will prompt you to install it. It's a little bit different in this situation because we have to trick the Western Digital box into thinking it's a new firmware. The way that we do that is by editing the WDTV.ver file. Alright? And when you open that, all you'll see, it's just a text document, and it contains the version number of the firmware that is supposedly on the drive. This is the first file that the Western Digital box scans to see if there's a new piece of firmware. So what we do is we just move this up to the next version. The most current version, I think, is 1.2. We just move it up to 1.5. Alright? And then the Western Digital box automatically knows that there's a new firmware on it and it prompts you to flash it. So we're going to do that right now. It's real easy. The firmware is only a couple of megabytes. One thing that I will advise you to do when you're working with flashing firmwares and things like that is always use a fresh flash drive. Always freshly format the flash drive completely if you would like to use it to flash a piece of firmware. You never know what's still on that drive, what could mess it up, what could happen. Alright, so we've got the content on our flash drive here. We're going to plug it into USB port 1 on the Western Digital TV here. And we'll see in a couple seconds on the TV screen here. The Western Digital box should pick this up. And it did. See, we've got new firmware found over here. We're going to hit flash. And it's asking us here, this is where we tricked it. We put 1.04. In fact, it's 1.02. But the Western Digital box doesn't know any better, and it just agrees to flash the firmware. This process takes about 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll come back when this is done. I'll show you the basics of what we can do with this firmware without any application packs. Alright? Okay, so the firmware is flashed, and as you can see here, it still thinks we have a new firmware because it flashed the old firmware back, which is still less than version 4 that we set it to. But anyways, the most notable thing that we've changed thus far is the ability to add themes, which means we can change the appearance of the Western Digital box by uploading the theme to the box or running it off of the flash drive. And also we've added TCP/IP networking to the box. Those are the two things that you can add without actually running any application packs. So what we're going to do here is, as you can see, we've got, it shows the host name of the computer, or I'm sorry, of the Western Digital box, and then it says we've got no IP address. That's because we haven't yet plugged in our box here. So what we're going to do is we're going to shut it down. I'm going to remove the drive that we flashed it with. I'm going to attach the networking, and I'm going to show you how we get an IP and how we can telnet into the box to do our initial configuration and to make sure everything is copacetic for right now, okay? Okay, so the box is rebooted now. We have our network connection. A little bit about the network that I have it hooked up to right now. It's just a test bed network that I have it on. So it consists of literally the Western Digital box and its network adapter, my test laptop and its network adapter, and then also just a standard NECU router. So there's nothing else on this network right now, just to make this simple. Later on, we're going to connect it up to my actual production network, and we will pull some content over from my file server, and we'll actually use it on a real network. But for right now, and I would recommend this for yourself when you're dealing with different types of firmwares and different types of hardware that you've never dealt with before, always test things on a test network if you don't want to take down a whole production network. There's always a risk of that. All right. The main thing I want to show you in here now is that we actually have an IP address to this box. This is obtained by going to the Western Digital system settings, and then on the About screen, it shows us both the host name and the IP address of the box. It's 192.168.1.2 for me, and it actually issues a random host name every time it boots, in case you've got multiple Western Digital boxes on the same network. Alright, one little thing about networking, and this has to be done before you flash the firmware, is you need to decide if you can use jumbo frames, which means setting a maximum transfer unit of 9,000 or more.
It's over 9,000!
Most Ethernet networks are 1,500 to 2,000 MTU, and if you don't want to, if you've got other things on your network like printers and things like that use this standard set solid MTU, you're going to have problems if you set jumbo frames, because things on the network will get confused. Just something to think about. Most of the time on consumer grade hardware it won't be an issue, so just leave the MTU alone. Which is why I didn't show you how to change it. But anyway, this is the IP address that we've got here. So we're going to do some preliminary stuff here. We're just going to test it and make sure we can get on this machine from the network. We're just going to ping the IP address. Ping 192.168.1.2. Anybody knows how to do this, it's real simple, just Windows command line. Alright, reply from 32 bytes with less than a millisecond. Perfect. Okay, the next step, what we get from this is we gain telnet abilities into the box. Alright, and telnet, just a little bit of background for anybody that doesn't know, perhaps you don't know. Telnet is just a remote command line. There's no security on telnet, and actually for this box there's not even going to be a password to access it. It opens a little bit of a security hole, but if it's on a closed network in your home or something like that, it's okay. Even if someone gained access to this box, maliciously there's not a whole lot that they can do to it anyways. They can't really set it up as a spam relay or anything like that, even if they really wanted to because of the MIPS processor. Not to say it can't be done, but security in this case is kind of on a lower tier. We're more concerned with functionality over security at this point. So we're going to telnet in, and I'm going to show you kind of the basics of the command line on the Western Digital box here. Okay, so here we are. This is PuTTY. If you haven't used PuTTY before, it's basically just a free open source terminal emulation. Telnet SSH is usually the default. We're just going to choose Telnet, right? Put in the IP of the box you want, 1.2. I'm also going to change the size here just so you can see it on the screen easier. Alright, as you can see here, we're presented with the login prompt. The login is just root, R-O-O-T, and no password. So we just get dumped to a BusyBox prompt, and this is what we really want, because from this we can do whatever we want with this box. It's completely customizable. Alright, so we're going to just CD to the root directory and ls, and as you can see, it's a normal Linux machine at this point. Alright, all your binaries are stored in bin or sbin. Your root directory is there. Most of these directories are not writable by you just because they're flashed onto the firmware. So the root directory, even though it's typically a user writable directory, we can't actually write anything to, because that would actually require reflashing the firmware. And for this reason, most of the stuff that runs on this box is actually stored in the temp directory. Okay? So inside temp we've got a whole bunch of stuff here. These are different configuration files, these are different various things. You've got messages.txt, you've got resolve.conf in case you've got some kind of strange DNS thing you need to nail down. For the most part, our drives are actually going to be mounted in media. Alright? And we don't actually have anything in this right now, because we don't have any drives physically connected, but if we did, they would appear in here. Alright? You can see I'm listing the directory and there's nothing there. The other basic things we can do from this, we can reboot the box. I'm not going to do that now because that would obviously reboot the box and have to wait for it. Okay, so this is just showing you the basics of what you can do with just the standard firmware. The box can get out to the internet. It does have internet capabilities. It has wget, so if you want to transfer a file from the internet or something like that, you could do that as well. But what we really want is we want some type of way to transfer files to this machine. We need to turn this box into a NAS, into a network attached storage device, because we want to be able to attach the USB drive that's attached to this box physically to another computer over the network. Alright? And there's two ways to do this, and I'm going to explain them both. Alright, so the first step on loading applications is actually making this device usable for a network attached media player, which is our ultimate goal here. Is we need to format our permanent storage, we're going to call it, as Linux. Alright, we need to format it as ext3. You could format it as ext2. Really the only difference between ext2 and ext3 is that ext3 is journaled, so it's a little bit faster, it's a little bit more efficient for more files. Either way, you could do it either way, it's up to you. We want to avoid having this formatted as NTFS or FAT32 for a number of reasons. First of all, we don't want it formatted FAT32 because we have a 2 GB file size limit, and we're going to be dealing with some large files here, namely Blu-rays and an HD video basically that can get up to 6 or 12 gigabytes per file. All right, so that throws FAT32 out of the picture. We don't want NTFS, even though it will handle large files. We don't want NTFS because the processor power that it takes for Linux to write to an NTFS volume is too high. All right, so by making everything native Linux, we reduce the CPU usage the most that we can, which makes everything as smooth and fast and stable as possible. All right. It's always a good thing in Linux to avoid using NTFS wherever possible. FAT32 is okay, you can get away with it, but like I said, the large files that we're going to be working with prohibit that. Alright, to do this we're just going to be using a Linux Ubuntu distro. It's loaded on the flash drive, so the operating system is running off the flash drive here. We've got gparted open, which comes with Ubuntu, and we're just going to create a new volume. This is a blank hard drive. There's nothing on it. Create as a primary partition. We're going to select ext3. We're not going to add a label because they're useless, and we're going to hit add. Alright? At this point all we do, we hit apply, and we watch gparted go through its paces here. You can see here it's going to create the primary partition. It's going to create it as empty, and then it's going to format it, and it's going to go through a number of things here. Alright? We'll come back after this is done. This is probably going to take you about 5 or 10 minutes depending on the size of your drive, okay? Okay, so in our quest to access this device over the network, we're going to be loading 3 applications total, okay? 3 application packs, and these application packs are already pre-built and designed to work with this firmware that we've put on the WDTV and to work on the WDTV itself. All right, the first one is Optware. All right, and what Optware is it's an online repository of all of the software for the Linksys NSLU2 NAS device. This includes I think it's in the range of 300 different programs. So we've got a torrent client on here. We've got all kinds of network utilities. We've got web browsers, everything, all kinds of different applications that run in command line environment that we can run off of the WDTV. We'll get into those probably at a later segment, but I'm gonna have you install that on here now as opposed to later because it's easier to do this all at once. The next application pack that we've got is a pure FTP-D server. All right, this allows us to access the box over FTP. In my experience thus far, FTP has been a little bit buggy, and it's not as easy to use as Samba, which is the third application pack that we're going to install. What Samba is, to those of you that may not know, is it's an implementation of Windows networking for Linux. All right, and what that allows us to do is basically mount the drive that's connected to the WDTV as a drive on Windows, map it to a drive letter. This also makes it platform independent, which means we don't have to worry that the drive is formatted ext3 and the Windows machine is NTFS. The Samba handles all of this. We don't need to worry about it. In an extreme situation, you could actually use the Western Digital TV as a print server. It's got USB ports. You could plug a printer into it. You could configure Samba to share the printer. You can do all kinds of stuff with Samba. That's the third application that we're going to be loading on there. The fourth file that we're going to be putting on there is Samba's configuration. There's a built-in configuration in the Samba application pack, but in my experience it's been buggy, so I wrote my own. And you can get this from the TechCentric website or email me. My email will be at the end of the show. I'll just show you some of the highlights of why this is important as opposed to the one that comes with. We've changed a couple of configuration settings in here. First of all, we got rid of the read-only. We got rid of the read-only group, which there's 2 shares set up for Samba. There's a read and write, which requires authentication, and there's a read-only group. As I stated before, we're not too concerned with security at this point. It's all going to be running on a local network. even if somebody gained access to it, all they could really do is delete your movies. Big deal. So we've created, this is the Samba configuration, again, and it will be up on the website. The two main things that I've changed are the guest account to be root, which someone, anybody will tell you that's a terrible thing to do on a production system. Again, don't do this on a real computer because you put your whole system at risk, but here we don't really care. So the guest account is set to root, and what that basically means is anytime somebody logs in as guest on the Western Digital box, they have root permissions, which is okay because there's only 2 users on the box anyway. There's the default, which is nobody, and we've got root, which is root. The next couple things that we've changed here are forced group to be root and forced user to be root on the share. Also, we've made the share, which we've named USB, browsable, writable, public, and guest accessible. All right, and this is the most important part of configuring Samba. This chunk right here, because this tells the Windows machine what it has permission to and what it does not have permission to. The path, as I stated before, is the temp directory / media directory / USB directory, which is where the Western Digital box mounts all of the connected USB storage. All right. One important thing to note about the Samba configuration here is, as of right now, this Samba configuration pack is not compatible with Windows Vista. So if you're running Windows Vista, or I'm guessing Windows 7, you will not be able to do this, because what happens is Samba doesn't correctly report available volume sizes to those operating systems. So when you attempt to copy a file to the Samba share, Windows interprets it as there's no space available, tells you there's no space available, and tells you to go away. So you will need to use XP for this, at least for now, until Samba gets this straightened out. Alright, so we're going to move all of these files over to our new ext3 formatted hard drive, which is this one right here. It's a 250 gigabyte SATA hard drive, just in a standard enclosure, and we're going to copy all that stuff over. It's probably about 150 megabytes in total. We're just going to copy that to the root of the drive, and it's a clean drive, so we don't have anything to worry about. So we're going to do that. I'm going to plug the drive in. We're going to reboot the Western Digital box, and I will show you the changes that gives us. Okay. Okay, so we've got the box hooked up off of the test network on the production network now. Got a hardwired Ethernet line running straight into my router, which is down there. Television, it's hooked up to that as well. You can see it's booted up. It's booted up off of our hard drive here with the Samba server, the Optware, and Pure FTP running all at the same time. We're going to check our IP now, because we should probably have a different IP because we're on a different network. Again, this is a step that you may not take. You may set it up all on your same network. It's up to you. Go to the About screen here. Okay, and you can see, I guess, again, we've got a different host name. And the host name is changeable. At this point, we don't need to, because we're going to use static nailed down IP addresses. But there's our IP. 192.168.1.3. So we're going to go and try this on the laptop now. Okay, so we're just going to mount the drive here real quick on our Windows machine. This is a different computer, which I'm accessing via remote control. Tools, map network drive, everybody's done it a million times. 2.168.1.3 is the new IP address of the box, / USB is the share name. We don't have to use a different username or anything like that. We are going to reconnect at logon so that every time the computer boots, we will use that. Alright, down to finish. It mounts it. We wait a couple seconds for good old Windows networking to pick it up and present us with the window here. Any second now. There it is. Okay, USB 1. And another thing I'd like to point out is if you had multiple drives hooked up to this, physically multiple drives with a USB hub or something like that plugged into the box, they would all present themselves here as USB 1, 2, 3, etc. So we're going to go USB 1. This is the vendor ID of the drive, which is kind of goofy that it's like that, but we'll just live with it. Alright, here we see the files that are currently on the drive itself. One important file to note here is the WD.TV folder, and this is where the Western Digital drive actually catalogs everything and keeps track of it so it knows where it is. We see our 4 files here. We see the optware, the pure FTPD, Samba, and then our Samba configuration, as well as the X-T3's lost and found directory, which is like a recycle bin. Alright, we're going to copy a movie to this. It is not a Blu-ray for the sake of time's sake. It is just the standard def DVD rip of Freedom Downtime. And we can do this as simply as just dragging and dropping to this drive. So we're going to wait for this to go. My average speeds on this, I've had good luck with the USB network adapters. My average speed has hovered around 3 or 4 megabytes a second, which isn't great. It's about half as much as the theoretical maximum of Ethernet, but it does work, and it will work good enough. I'll have to give it a shot with some other network adapters, maybe some of the Ethernet, or I'm sorry, some of the gigabit network adapters, and give that a shot. We've got about 6 minutes remaining on this 700 megabyte DVD rip. We'll come back actually downstairs again, and I'll show you that it's on the box, and we can sit down and enjoy it. So the copy has finished. The file transfer is completed. It was about 6 minutes total for 700 megabytes. The first thing you'll notice is if you attempt to immediately go down and access the file that you just transferred on the Western Digital box, it won't be there because the Western Digital box, instead of just displaying the contents of the drive, it actually catalogs the files to make it quicker to browse. It generates thumbnails, it does a number of different things. This is only done when the drive is inserted or after an X amount of minutes. I don't know this amount of minutes, so the easiest way, because we can't just unplug the drive because part of the operating system is running off of it, the easiest way is to either just issue a reboot command over Telnet or to just unplug and replug the box. If you wait a while, the list will populate itself. So if you do a long transfer overnight of maybe your whole movie collection to the drive, come back in the morning, they'll all be there. It's fine. But if you want to do it as an immediate thing, then you'll have to reboot the box and wait for it to catalog itself again. So we're going to give this a shot. We've got Freedom Downtime, like I said before. This is just a DivX file format. Selected it from the list. And we see here's the intro. It's not a 1080p. It's definitely not. Let's just make sure we get everything here.
All we can do is try to publicize the facts, not what the government's saying, but the facts, and not simply parrot or regurgitate what the government is saying, because that's largely bullshit.
It was the dead of winter. I don't remember it ever being so cold. And we were on a mission. A bunch of us had volunteered to drive our good friend to his new home, the Schuylkill Federal Prison, in the middle of Pennsylvania. He called himself Fiber Optic, and you'd have to look pretty hard to find someone who didn't think he was brilliant.
Alright, so that's enough of that. By the way, if you've never seen Freedom Downtime, pick up a copy from 2600. It's good flick. It's a little dated material, but it's definitely a good flick. Anyways, this has been the first segment, hopefully in a number of segments, about hacking the Western Digital TV. The community for these boxes is still very, very new. To my knowledge, there's maybe at most 3 or 4 guys working on this stuff. There's not a whole community behind it yet either. Maybe 30 or 40 people total have this stuff actually loaded on their machines, from what I can tell through the community. There's probably more, but from what I can tell, it's still a very, very young art. Hopefully it will be developed further. Hopefully we'll see a whole bunch of crazy cool stuff come into the Western Digital box, but for such a young piece of software, it is functioning fabulously. It functions great. For $100, maybe $150, you get yourself basically a running media center PC, accessible over the network completely without dealing with actually building a media center PC and keeping it powered and all that. I think the box itself actually uses about 13 watts of power being on all the time, which is very, very low. That is it. If you've got any questions, please give me an email. Send an email my way, will@techcentric.org. I'm sure you know the address. Let us know about your own experiences. Go and pick up one of these boxes. They're very fun. If you've got a high-def TV and you've got some high-def content that you want to actually display and catalog, this is definitely the wave of the future. This is where high-def is going. Blu-rays, HD DVDs, a couple years they're all going to be gone. The stuff's actually it's all going to be stored on some kind of either solid state or magnetic media, hard drives or networks or out on the internet. So do yourself a favor and get up with this stuff now, because this stuff is going to take off. The boxes are available all over the place. You can get them at a Best Buy, you can get them at a Tiger Direct, you can get them online. If you can't find one, contact me and I'll make sure we get one in your hands. That is it. Please let me know with your experiences.
So Will, that was actually really cool. I've actually got one of those myself. I'm glad you picked one up and showed me some alternative uses for this. But I'm wondering, is there anything else you can do with it besides watching movies on this thing?
Well, once it's a full-fledged Linux machine, you can really do whatever you want on it. As long as the source code's been compiled for the processor, you can use it to run it whatever you want. In terms of alternative uses, instead of just watching movies and stuff, I've seen a lot of companies are using these for like promotional displays. Like in malls, they put up a plasma TV and hook up the Western Digital box. It's a seamless way to just play like a looping video or something on a TV all the time. So,
all right.
If you've got somebody that's looking to do something like that, it's a great option.
What about like personal uses? What else might you use it for personally?
You can use it for a network attached storage. There's work being done to turn on cups and allow it to be a USB print server.
Okay.
There's a whole lot of things. The community is still very, very young.
Okay.
And there will be, I'm sure, it will grow by leaps and bounds by the next couple months here, once this picks up.
Well, sounds good. What do we got coming up next?
Coming up next, we've got Surfing with Steve.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. All right. Yeah, check it out as I review a couple more websites, as I typically do. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Surfing with Steve once again, and got two more sites for you as always. I'd first like to start off with something I've been using for a few months now that Will actually turned me on to. Is called Dropbox, and what it is basically a synchronized folder on your computer, stored on your hard drive. It synchronizes with an online server at Dropbox, and basically you can drop anything you want into this folder. You can put pictures in there, you could put files, music files, things that you need to send to people in that folder, and it will synchronize with an online account. And the way this works is basically throw that in that folder, and you're logged into your Dropbox program that's installed on your computer, and it will synchronize your files over. The great thing I use it for is actually getting URL files for these, or URL links for these files. So if I want to send a picture to William, all I have to do is put it in my Dropbox folder, right click on the file and say get public link. I can send him the link to that picture and we can collaborate really easily. That's what I use it for. Other people might use it for syncing data between their computers. Will mentioned that he uses it to sync the data between his laptop and his desktop. It would be consistent because you're logged in on the same account on both computers with your Dropbox program installed on both. So the way it works is you put something in on your laptop and you see the same thing in the same folder on your desktop. It's a real good collaboration tool, good for syncing files and things like that. If you've ever had to email a file to yourself, this basically takes care of that, and you won't have to do that ever again. It's a great free service. They offer 2 gigabytes of storage for free. If you want to go for more, they offer 50 gigabytes for $10 a month or $100 a year, and 100 gigabytes for, I believe, $50 or $20 a month. I'm sorry. So if you need more space, you can pay, but otherwise it's free. So check that out. That's at getdropbox.com, and download it and try it out. So the next site I have for you is actually just a little fun thing that I found. It's called congregate.com, and I'm sure you've played Flash games or something like that at one of your favorite Flash game sites like addictinggames.com or something like that. You finish the game and you don't feel very rewarded. Well, I like achievements personally. I play Steam games so I can get achievements. This Congregate website will actually take those Flash games, and most of them are on their site. and they've actually bundled achievements into their system, so you can beat something in a Flash game and get an achievement for it on your account on their site. They also have a secondary card game that they have available on there that you can win cards to play your game on by doing achievements in different Flash games. So you can win these little cards and play their Flash game by earned cards. Also, there's kind of a community behind this. If you think about it like that, there is chat rooms on each of these games. So if somebody's, you're playing a puzzle game, you can't, how the hell do I get out of this room? Maybe how do you beat level 5? You could ask somebody on there, and possibly somebody else in that same room is working on the same thing, and you guys can kind of collaborate on that. So it's just a little fun thing. Try it out. It's at www.congregate.com. That's with a K. And check it out and let me know what you think. All right. Well, this has been Surfing with Steve for episode 10, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, my name is Steve at TechCentric.org. And give me an email. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas for segments, or you have any ideas for websites you'd like me to review, go ahead and send me an email. I'd be glad to look at them. All right, see you later.
Steve, I've been using Dropbox for a while too. Ever since I don't know if it's still in beta, but since the first beta. And it's been a really great product so far. Any word on if it's going to stay free or not?
I actually have a couple plans now. There's additional storage available for a nominal fee, of course. You can get the 2 gigabytes for free still. So if you just need 2 gigabytes, then you're fine there. If you need any more than that, you might have to pay. Cool. What do we got coming up next?
Coming up next, we've got Jared. He's going to show us how to live in the clouds.
All right, internet clouds. Does it ever rain there? No, I guess not. All right.
Hey guys, here to share a segment with you about living on the internet cloud. Now, if you're becoming like most people, you're having a lot smaller laptops when you're going around. We're using a netbook today. Now, if you have these, they don't have the greatest specs. They are powerful machines, but you don't want to use up all your processor speed and download stuff that's just unnecessary to have anymore. It's not worth your time. So I'm going to give you a couple different free open source things that are on the internet cloud and that you can not use up all your speed and having. So the first thing we're going to introduce to you today is IMO.im. Now, IMO.im, you just go there on the website. These are all internet-based things that you can go to. And we go there, and it's a great instant messenger. You can connect to MSN, Yahoo, ICQ. You can also connect to Google Talk, MySpace, and even Skype now. So there's also a video interface on there as well. So if you do have Skype and other stuff that does use video, they have plugins for that you can use. It makes an annoying whistle sound. That's the only real downside of IMO.im. But you can connect to a lot of different accounts at once, multiple different accounts. It's really good. But if you don't like IMO.im, you can also go to Meebo. It has a little bit more limited access. It can only get onto AIM, Yahoo, MySpace, and MSN. But it does have the possibility of telling people what you're doing via Twitter, Facebook, and other stuff like that. And you can actually create a Meebo account. It has some specialties, but if you like IMO.im, I would go with that. Meebo is kind of my second choice. They do have some problems sometimes just being based on the web, but they normally do get things fixed pretty fast, and you'll like them. It's better than downloading Trillion or AIM 7 point whatever that will just kill your processor speed. So don't download those stuff. Stay online. Now, if you ever want to talk to someone just anywhere in the world, you should also check out Omegle. It's OMEGLE.com. And this just randomly connects you with some person in the world. It could be Switzerland, it could be somewhere in Africa, even Australia. Doesn't really say any name. You just come in there, talk to someone. If you're bored, don't got anyone to talk to, go to Omegle. Sure, why not? Moving on from instant messaging, though, we need to go to somewhere where you can actually store some of your stuff. So we don't have to store all that stuff on your hard drive. The best thing I would recommend is A Drive. So adrive.com. You can go there, and you get 50 gigs of storage for free, which is pretty good. I mean, I have a 10 gig hard drive myself, so any extra free space that isn't physical, it's great. We also do have drop.io, and you can kind of combine things. It's sort of like A Drive, but you can collaborate with people in real time. So good thing to have as well. I don't know that much about it, but you can look into it. Now we're moving on to imaging. Images are definitely, hosting files. That used to be a big problem. Not really that much anymore. I like to use Imager, imgur.com. And I mean, it's pretty simple. You just go in, upload, you get a link, and you show it to people. It's pretty much like TinyPic and all those other things that are pretty much the same. We do definitely have to mention Flickr, which when you have a Yahoo account, you get Flickr at the same time. You can use that, which is good to not have to register for all sorts of things and remember different passwords. Kimages, K-I-M-A-G, or .eg, Kimag.es. It's based in Spain, but you can also use that. It's similar to Imager as well. We also have recommended Aviary, and that has a lot of different things that you can use. You can basically upload images and you can edit them online. Do some things to manipulate it. It's like having Photoshop online. So Aviary is definitely interesting to check out. Music is definitely used a big thing, as well. Almost everybody has iTunes or Windows Media Player, something that plays music. But when you get online, you don't really want to have to download all that stuff, and it's just a waste of time. Personally, I have a couple of recommendations. iMeme, the first one. iMeme is pretty good. You go there, you can get a lot of different things. It's kind of like a MySpace sort of thing, built in with music, but without the actual MySpace profile. So you can find a lot of different genres. It'll link you to stuff that you think, or that it thinks you will like. One disadvantage, again, you have to register for an iMeme account, but that's really no big deal. You can't get specific songs all the time just because of copyright, and certain songs just aren't available. But there are definitely a deep breadth of songs and things to get. Obviously, I want to mention Project Playlist. Even though I'm not a fan of MySpace, MySpace has done pretty well in supporting this. Again, you can't get a lot of many copyrighted songs. The Beatles, Pink Floyd, something that's a little bit more popular isn't going to be there all the time. But Project Playlist is good. You can also download songs from that, but make sure it's only DRM free, and royalties and all that other stuff is squared away, because we do not encourage piracy of any sort. Pandora is also good. A lot of people have been using Pandora. Streams pretty well. Again, you don't get to pick as much. You get stuff that is similar in sound and genre, but you don't get 100% of the time what you're actually looking for. Just because, again, of copyright, and you can only fast forward maybe 5 times, I think, due to their ability to play. Also, I personally love listening to Soma FM. If there's any radio station out there, Soma FM, I love it. It sounds great at night. But I've always been kind of bugged that I would have to download Winamp in order to play any of my Soma FM songs. Shoutcast has actually fixed this problem. They're the ones that actually coded Winamp. So Shoutcast, you can actually now go to their website and you can type in any of the radio stations that Shoutcast has, and it'll stream it directly online. Groove Salad, Space Station, Beat Blender, great stations. Check them out on the Shoutcast website. You'll love them. Also, I'd like to mention Last.fm. You can get a lot of decent, good songs. Again, there are some little problems with it, but it's good for what it is. Now, moving on from music, the last thing that we get to is video. Now, everybody's pretty much heard of Hulu. It's gotten better as it's gone on. It originally first started where it didn't have that many commercials, but to play more popular things, to play more episodes, to play different content, they've kind of had to incorporate ads and whatnot into there. So it's kind of a catch-22, but Hulu definitely does have a lot of new content. The Office, lots of Family Guy stuff, all sorts of stuff. You'll find something from the 80s, if not further back. You'll like it. And also Boxy. Boxy's not directly online. You do have to have an internet connection to use it. But Boxy basically goes in and searches all the media that you have, pictures, videos, media like that. And this is really good for people that have desktops and have remotes for them. So kind of like having a home entertainment system. and Boxee is the software that you would use to scan through an album or to watch a movie. So it's pretty good. I'd also definitely like to mention Hulu Desktop. I forgot to mention that. Hulu Desktop is now, you can download that, put it on your desktop, so you don't even have to go to the Hulu site. Problems with that, though, are that it does take up a lot of processor speed, running from the desktop and everything like that. So there are some disadvantages. But for the most part, Hulu's a good one. It's going to give you more content rather than Boxee. Boxee will play non-DRM music and stuff to that effect, but Boxee's kind of managing your media that you already have. It won't really go out there and get that much more for you. But I hope that these internet cloud things will definitely help you guys out. Check out imo.im. Definitely check out Project Playlist. Get some songs. Get online. Let's use the cloud and stop using your processor speed, guys. It's unnecessary. Well, hope you guys found this informative, and stay safe.
So Jared, that was actually really cool. I've actually used some of those web applications. Aviary is really helpful if you're doing like Photoshop on the go or something like that. So thanks for doing that. Now, what are we got coming up next?
Coming up next, buddy Nick is going to show us strange ways to implement and use virtual private networks.
All right.
Cool.
Alright, with netbooks becoming more popular and people just wanting to share stuff with each other, I thought it would probably be a little convenient to go through a couple methods of hooking up with your buddies, as remote as they may be, to play games, share your files, nothing illegal of course, right? And just stuff like that, a secure collaborative environment, more or less, we'll call it. So I went looking at a few options for peer-to-peer VPNs that you probably have not heard of. So the first one I've got for you is called Mojako, and it's actually not so much a pure VPN as it is a replacement server for Hamachi. You see, most people don't like Hamachi for the fact that LogMeIn, the company that runs it, has a proprietary server running their backend, and people find that LogMeIn may or may not be on the wire sniffing their traffic as it goes through this server or not. So someone thought it would be wise to create an open source free implementation that you could throw on a server you have and use that as a mediation server instead of LogMeIn's. So that's my first option because it's very easy to set up, and once you have it running, I mean, you just need a Linux server somewhere. Once you have it running, you can use the native Hamachi client, Windows, Linux, OS X, or they actually have a client somewhere you can get for Windows Mobile. And you can work just like you were using the native Hamachi server, with the added benefit that since you're in control of the server, you can become a premium user and you don't have to worry about any of the limitations that they set forth for making you pay. So that's my first option. If you don't have a server, obviously it's not going to work for you. They do offer one. The Mojako project does offer one for you to use if you would like to use theirs, but if you're avoiding Hamachi's already, what's making you, or what's letting you use theirs, right? But that's just my first option. My second one is a client for Windows or OS X called Remobo. Now, Remobo is similar to Hamachi in the sense that you install this little desktop app on each computer you want on the VPN, and you just kind of set and forget. But Remobo is aimed more for social use than just straight personal. Right on the home page, actually, it mentions being able to use Remobo for like secure torrenting with your friends back and forth, and file sharing and playing your games. And it actually, the installer actually comes with a BitTorrent client installer as well. So it just kind of propagates that. They also, to encourage the social behavior, it functions more as a buddy list than anything, where if you're signed in, all of your stuff is shared automatically with all of the friends you have in that buddy list. So there are warnings plastered everywhere about be careful who you share with, but I don't think they really need to iterate that too much. Really not much more to discuss with that either, other than the fact that if you're using anything that isn't Windows or OS X, you're probably out of luck. My last option is for Windows and Linux users, and it's called Social VPN. And the interesting thing about this is that instead of mediation like Hamachi or Remobo using a backend server, Social VPN uses Facebook. You're probably raising your eyebrows here. It's kind of hacky in the way it works, but you run this client, which is kind of sketchy in and of itself, but you run this client and it will authenticate itself with Facebook and any friends you have that may happen to be running this Social VPN app as well. You can kind of pick and choose, and basically the VPN is established using Facebook to mediate everything out. Ultimately it's peer-to-peer, but the fact that you don't have to worry about a third-party server other than Facebook, so you know it's probably going to be fairly reliable, is a good thing to have. That's pretty much it. So if there's anything else you'd like to ask, or you got any other suggestions for me, because I'd be interested in messing around with some of them, you can email me, nick@techcentric.org. You can post to the forums. Love to hear from you. If you've got any other tips, let me know. Thanks.
So Nick, thanks for that. Thanks for contributing to the episode as always. Glad to hear from you. What do we have going on next?
Coming up next, in true Steve form, you're going to be showing us some of the cool stuff that you've been following with the Nvidia Ion.
That's right.
Small form factor chipset from Nvidia for high definition stuff.
Cool. That's coming up next.
Cool. All right, hey everyone, I just wanted to give you a little blurb about the Nvidia Ion chipset coming up. I'm actually really excited about it because everyone knows I'm into small form factor computers, and this is a real leap forward for that. Basically, what this chipset is it's the Nvidia, what they call it the Ion processor. It's essentially a 9400M, so their mobile chip for graphics, paired with an Intel Atom processor. And those two together create the Nvidia Ion platform. This platform is compatible with DDR3 memory and DDR2 memory, at 800 and 1066 speeds respectively. It's got a really high max resolution, which is great. So in the future when better resolution comes out higher than 1080p, it'll be able to support that. Another key feature is that it supports DirectX 10. So, might be able to play Call of Duty 4 on your netbook eventually, which is a really cool leap forward if you ask me. It's really good for also home theater PCs. If you're doing mini ITX computers and making a home theater PC, you'll be able to play that HD content out of an HDMI port onto your really big, 52-inch plasma screen. It'll look great and you'll be happy with it. Another great thing about this Ion chipset is that it's very low power consumption. So you get low heat, and you don't require a giant heat sink with a loud fan. So you get a small computer with low heat and low noise. So it's a great bundle there. I'm really excited about it because everyone knows I like to build mini ITX computers. Haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm actually waiting on to see how this comes out and how this all looks, and possibly get one of these motherboards that actually has one on it. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of things out with the Ion chipset now. A lot of them are coming out later this year and next year. I know Lenovo is working on a laptop that they already have out and swapping out the current Intel chipset, graphics chipset, for the Nvidia Ion chipset. And there are a couple companies working on mini ITX boards. I know Zotac has started on one right now called the Mini ITX, or the Mini XA or something like that. And that actually has the Ion chipset in it as well. And it will run great for home theater PCs and things like that. One last thing is there's actually smaller desktops coming out, called net tops. I know Acer's working on one called the Aspire Evo, and it's a small desktop running this platform, and you'll get the same type of performance with that. So just wanted to give you guys a quick blurb on that and let you know what's going on with it if you hadn't heard about it before, if you heard about it and didn't know exactly what it was. And if you have any questions, you'd like to ask me something, give me an email at steve@techcentric.org. Besides that, have a good time with it and hope to see you guys all using that.
All right, Steve, that's pretty cool stuff. It's definitely going to revolutionize the way not only small form factor stuff works, but I'm guessing embedded applications and certain other video, anything that does video. When can we expect to see more Nvidia Ion being used in mainstream, either computing or in in other applications?
Well, there's actually I know there is a Acer net top, so network desktop. Basically, it's coming out soon. It's been talked about. It's been in the talks on Engadget and places like that. And I haven't found an actual release date for that, but I know the Ion is actually in that. It's also in the Lenovo netbook called the S10, or I'm sorry, the S12.
Okay.
It's in the S12. There is an Intel graphics chipset available for the current one. The Ion is coming later. So, basically with having a 9400, Nvidia 9400 in a netbook, you can think of the possibilities with HDMI out, things like that. It's already in Mini ITX motherboard by Zotac. So, there's a few different applications, and that's all I've really heard of at the moment, but I'm sure plenty of different other companies will, want to get on board with this.
And I'm sure as soon as it comes out and as soon as it's mainstream, we'll
have something new.
We'll have something new, and we'll have something hopefully really cool to show you with the Nvidia Ion.
Yep. All right, cool. So I think that's about it, right, Paul?
Yeah, this has been TechCentric episode 10. Getting going for a while. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. We're trying our hardest to put some good content together for you. We really need your feedback to let us know if you're still out there.
Yes, please.
Let us know you're still out there. Let us know you're still supporting us, and good things will happen. We assure you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for everyone that supports us normally. Infonomicon, BinRev. Thanks for not forgetting about us.
Yeah, those guys are all still there. They all still have links to us on their website, even though it's been 8 months.
The dedication is there, and we appreciate it.
Yep.
So that's about it. Thanks for watching. See you later.
Bye bye.
Molly, you want to be in the show? You want to be in the show, Molly? What are you doing? What are you doing, Molly? Huh? Are you going to be in the show? Can you do a segment? About bones, what do you mean? How'd you sleep? Yeah? Yeah? You're really good at sleeping. Right, Molly? Yeah?
Why isn't she biting my face off?
She doesn't mind you any longer?
TechCentric is proudly presented under a Creative Commons share-alike license.